Check. There it is. Check, check, mic check. 1, 2, Niner. Where are you calling from? A walkie-talkie?
We can hear you.
You can hear me all right? I feel like I got a crazy echo. Echo. No? Can you hear me okay? It's okay? You're good? Okay, great. You like the reverb? Perfect. All right, so maybe you've recognized that we've been in a series for the last 3 weeks, this week included, that brings us back to the 80s and 90s, and that's why we're wearing some sweet apparel like this. We're bringing tubular words back, like rad and gnarly. Radical people fight for peace. So the whole concept of this is we're looking through how we are oftentimes in conflict, and we don't often go toward peace. Instead, we want to stay in that, or we actually help to build more and more conflict. Now, in the 90s, when we're thinking about chaos and conflict, there's a lot of different television shows that we turned to, mainly because everything got done in 30 minutes, right? If there was an issue, it got resolved in 30 minutes because you couldn't binge watch the shows like you can now and just go to the next one and the next one and the next one. And things didn't carry over to the next episode. It was like it got done in 30 minutes. And by the way, most of you have never had the awesome privilege of you have to hustle to go get a snack over commercials. You totally missed that. It was a time in which you're like, run, you gotta go, it's back on, and you're running and jumping over the couch because you couldn't miss it. DVR was not a thing, right? You wouldn't just straight up miss it. Anyway, so in the 90s, there's a show, specifically, we've looked at a couple different ones. Remember what the first week one was? Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And then we're in Full House. And this week we have Saved by the Bell. Anybody? Okay. Zach? Okay, very good. So some of you are watching that right now. Please no. Are you for real? Okay, that's great. Okay, way to get in form for the 90s. I like that. So Saved by the Bell was a show in which there was some friend drama going on between Zach and AC Slater. Okay? Now, these two individuals wanted to date the same girl. Saved by the Bell, and you guys all got crazy. That was nuts, right? But they wanted to date the same girl, and so obviously that doesn't always go very well, so we're going to see how that happens here. And
Hey, Zach. Yo. Last night at the movies, you went too far.
Just helped a mother get together with her son. What's so wrong about that?
Wrecking my date with Joanna wasn't funny.
Oh, like it was funny wrecking my study date the night before?
Hey, you started it, man, making me look like a jerk at the max.
Well, that's what you are.
What did you say?
You heard me. You get out of my face.
And what if I don't, punk?
Then I'll just have to make you, punk.
classic music right there.
Good friends like the two of you fighting?
So, yeah, they're icing each other. It's nuts, right? The whole thing. But here's the idea of this, that physical fights obviously are things that we don't want to be about as Christ followers. But maybe anybody ever been in a physical fight before? A couple of you, okay. There's a few that were honest, good. Some of you, how many of you have been in an emotional fight ever, or a verbal fight? Okay. Oh, I win those, right? Yeah. See, this is this is the idea, though, right? We laugh and we make fun of those types of things, but we laugh and make fun of people, and that causes conflict and chaos. We played breakout dodgeball over there not too long ago, and that was basically just chaos. Nobody really knew who was in or who was out. You're just throwing a ball to run around and throw a ball at each other for the most part. And some of you got some aggression out that you've probably had for a long time. I saw Clint in there, and he was just going at every single one of his guys, which was great because they gave it back. But the idea of this is there's chaos and conflict all around us. And how we manage those things determines how we are at following after Christ and his example that he set for us. Now, we're really good at this idea of fighting. We can fight with our thumbs, right, on our phones. We can fight with our words behind people's back. And we can physically fight with our fists. And some of you don't need words. Some of you don't need fists. You just got daggers thrown out with your eyes and your body language. Yeah, you all know who you are already. You're like, yeah, that's me, right? And so here's the thought process. Each of us has been in conflict before. And we're going to hear from Kristen tonight and kind of hear what it means to not be in peace in our relationships. So Kristen, would you come on forward and share, please? Give her a round of applause. Microphone, if we could, please.
Hey guys, how'd I do on my 90s look? All right, well, I'll have to try better. Anyway, so kind of what Brian was talking about, I'm not a person that comes at you with words. I'm not a person that comes at you with my fist. I'm more of an emotional thinker, processor, and my friend Caitlin and I met in 2009 working at Harbor House, and both kind of came from similar backgrounds in our families. And we had been pretty close for a good 2 years. Both got out of serious relationships and then had met someone else. And her relationship took off and got a lot more serious because they were expecting a baby. And we got together for lunch, and she had told me that she wasn't going to be having a drink, and I kind of put two and two together. And she had said, this isn't what we wanted, obviously, but she's like, but I think God has a big reason. And I supported her because she is my friend. I'm not just going to turn my back on her. And so, unfortunately, she felt like the world was looking down on her and pushed all of her friends away, including me, that was rough because the person that you go to with things all of a sudden isn't there anymore. Or when you want to call that person or shoot them a text message, yes, texting was cool when I was younger. But that's not how it kind of was. And then she was sick, from the pregnancy. Well, were you really sick from the pregnancy, or did you, it felt more of like I just don't want to see you type of thing. And so we grew apart and we grew apart and we grew apart. And I would Facebook stalk her and just see how she was doing and pray about her and hope all was good. And I think the thing that hurt the worst is I found out that she got married on Facebook. And so that to me was heartbreaking. Like, the person that I was so close with for so long could then not even tell me that she was going to get married.
Thanks, Kristen. This is what it looks like to live in conflict with others. And I'm sure all of us could have a similar story where there's tension in a relationship. Maybe even when you came here tonight, there was tension in a relationship, maybe that you left at home, or maybe it was a boyfriend or girlfriend that you're having issues with, and you're in tension and conflict in that relationship. So what do we do with that? What does it mean? What does the Bible have to say? What does James specifically have to say about this idea of being in conflict with one another? You go to James 3, if you would. If you got Bibles, there's some underneath over here. There's not any out underneath here. If you got a phone, you can do it. It'll also be up on the screen. But James 3:16, and also James chapter 4. James 3:16 says this: "For wherever there is jealousy and selfish ambition, there you will find disorder and evil of every kind." So just pausing there for a moment. James 3:16, jealousy and selfish ambition, there you'll find disorder and evil of every kind. So this is chaos, this is conflict arriving out of the idea that we're jealous and we're selfish, right? And now continuing on in chapter 4, we're looking at verses 1 through 3. It says, what is causing the quarrels and fights among you? Don't they come from the evil desires at war within you? You want what you don't have, so you scheme and you kill to get it. You are jealous of what others have, but you can't get it, so you fight and wage war to take it away from them. Yet you don't have what you want because you don't ask God for it. And even when you ask, you don't get it because your motives are all wrong. You want only what will give you pleasure. So James does not hold back, right? James doesn't hold back. He simply calls us out, saying, we fight because we're selfish. We fight because of our selfishness. We only want what we want. We're greedy. And as a result of us not getting the thing that we want, we fight back against people. So your mom doesn't allow you to do what you really wanted to do. How do you respond to her? Chaos, conflict. You throw back words at her. Right? The second idea of this is that we're selfish because we're self-centered. We might not mean to be selfish with what we're saying and what we're doing, but we don't think about how it's going to react, how it's going to affect the people around us. Will this really affect my sibling? Will this affect my parents, the way that I'm acting right now? Will this affect Christians? If you call yourself a Christ follower, your actions reflect on all Christians. The thought on that is if we're selfish, we don't think about how it's going to affect other people. We only look at how it's going to affect us. And when that happens, it causes chaos. It causes conflict among other people. And sometimes we're just defensive. I've been hurt by other people, not in my family, and then I'll go home and I'll take it out on them rather than on the other individuals that I have the conflict with. Anybody been in that situation before? This is defensiveness, where we're hurt and we're like a wounded animal. Whoever comes at us, even if they have good intentions, we're like, get away. We are just coming in and we're fighting because we're worried about ourselves and how we can help ourselves. Now, our selfishness doesn't actually do what it is that we think it's going to do. It doesn't help us. It doesn't help us defend ourselves. It doesn't help us protect ourselves. It doesn't get us what we want. So what are we supposed to do then? Well, we skipped 2 verses in James, and those are James 3:17 and 18. This is what it says. But the wisdom from above is first of all pure. It is also peace-loving, gentle at all times, and willing to yield to others. It is full of mercy and the fruit of good deeds. It shows no favoritism and is always sincere. And those who are peacemakers will plant seeds of peace and reap a harvest of righteousness. Peacemakers. And this is an interesting word. I think it implies a few different things. First of all, the idea of peacemaker is that it's an action. You actually have to make peace. It's not something that just happens, right? The second implication of this is that it's normal for conflict and fighting. Otherwise, you wouldn't have to have a peacemaker. If there's already peace, there's no reason to have a peacemaker. And the third thing it doesn't imply is that all conflict is bad, right? Or that it all should be avoided, right? The idea is not to be peacekeepers, where we're not allowing anything in that could be disruptive, but we're peacemakers. We go after and seek peace, and we fight for peace, not just quenching anything that might potentially be disruptive. Now, how do we become peacemakers? What is the thought process of becoming a peacemaker? Verse 17 tells us that wisdom from above is where that happens. So wisdom from above, is that just simply like God dropping an instruction manual to you and saying, this is it, go for it? Probably not. Although, we have something that is the Bible. And this is God's instruction booklet for us and what it means to follow after and be Him. And the best example of who God is in Christ Jesus. And so week 1, remember what we had? Some of you have them. on your wrist yet. What would Jesus do? Bracelets. The concept of that is we follow after Jesus because he is our greatest example of what it means to follow and to be a Christ follower, to know who God is, to be a peacemaker. Jesus had a lot of things that he said and did when he was on this earth. And in the Sermon on the Mount, one of his most famous sermons, Matthew 5 through 7, specifically Matthew 5 verse 9, tells us this: "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God." Now, Jesus is telling us to fight for peace, not our own self-interest. That's really often hard for us to do. For we desire to be right and to actually win the argument, right? Or win the fight, or win the conflict that we're in. We desire to win more than we desire to show others Christ. And that's a heart check for us. That's something that we need to actually evaluate and say, man, are we living after Jesus, or are we just pursuing our own status in other people's eyes? See, Jesus came to this earth for a purpose, and that was for us to be back in right relationship with God. Jesus made peace between us and God. He didn't come to establish his authority over us. He didn't come to revolt the Romans who were over the oppressive rule of the Jews. Instead, Jesus came and to sacrifice himself so that he would be ultimately victorious, and that you and I could have a relationship with God. That's an incredible thing. That Jesus made peace between God, the King and Creator of the universe, and us as humans by living a life we couldn't, dying a death we deserved, and then rising again from the grave. So all who believe in him could have a life eternal. Imagine if you and I lived sacrificially like that, striving to make peace in the relationships that we had. Instead of trying to be right, instead of trying to be domineering over top of everybody in those conversations, I'm right, you're wrong. What if we fought for peace and were willing to sacrifice not our morals, not the truth, but what if we were willing to sacrifice in the sense of your humility, your pride, so that we came at them in humility? I'm sorry that I offended you in any way. Rather than, I was right, you're wrong. That would change some dynamics of relationships. We're going to hear back from Kristen and see how her relationship shifted and how she fought for peace, or how that was resolved together. Kristen?
Okay, so a good 2 years had passed, and Caitlin and I had not really spoken. Like I said, we kind of did face group things, and with working at Harbor House, we had, by then, were no longer either one of us working there. And we would kind of keep in touch, the group of us that were there, of the residents that would have passed away, and just say, hey, we want to reach out and let you know so-and-so has passed. Because working with the adults at Harbor House, we got to know them really, really well. And Caitlin had reached out to me and let me know that one of them had passed, and I had said thanks that I had already heard. And something in me just said, why not ask her if she wants to go to Harbor House together and just have a memory of this person. The individual that had passed away was very close to both Caitlin and I, and she would have been my flower girl at my wedding, which is kind of shows you how the relationship works that way. But so we did, and she brought her son Landon, which I had not ever met, and I don't remember how old he was at that point. This was like 8 years ago. And so we kind of rekindled that, and we were talking about how I was, I think it was January, I think it was like February, and then after Luke and I got engaged that year, then, you know, she was going to be my photographer because that's what she did. And so since then, we are like each other's other half. Like God had a purpose for us. And I remember her telling me one time too, like she had sat down with her husband and just had said, like, have you ever thought like what Kristen had to go through in losing you? And she said, no, I never thought of it that way. I only thought of it as me losing her. And so at the same point, we were both hurting so badly that we wanted each other, but because of a situation, thought it was pushing us farther away. So moral of the story is, if you think, don't just think, make sure you act, because if that day hadn't come and presented itself and I hadn't asked, then I don't know where I would be today without her. So thanks.
Thanks, Kristen. You'll see as we go through these ideas of how actually to be peacemaker. There's 4 simple ideas, and Kristen nailed a couple of those just in how they interacted with one another. But maybe you heard it, maybe you didn't. The idea of her friend saying, I only thought of me losing her. So conflict is selfish, right? Not the other way around. You don't think about, but he's the one who made peace between you and God the Father so that you can have eternal life with him when you die, but also live with him now. And that's an incredible reality. And so first thing is trust in Jesus. The second thing, very practical. So if you're a Christ follower, if you're not a Christ follower, this is going to be something that would help you as well. Stop the drama, right? Stop the drama. Don't start it. Do not be a drama starter. I know there are people in here who start drama. It's just a statistic, right? Like, there's also people in here who hate drama, and you're very good at stopping drama. However, your actions, your words, your looks all have the ability to hurt people. I also want you to know that your actions, your words, your looks have the ability to help people and to stop drama. So you can be that person. You can do that to stop the drama. Now, this kind of goes with the next idea here of building a bridge. If you're seeing outside people, outside conflict, you can be the bridge to bring those two people together. You see somebody arguing in the hallway with somebody else. Maybe there's 2 friends of yours, and you can step into this and say, man, what's going on here? Talk to me. Why are you yelling at her this way? You can be the bridge. Now, if you are the person in conflict, you can build the bridge. That was something Kristen did. Maybe you heard it within the story where there had a similar or a person that they shared and it's something with, the person that they lost, that Harbor House. So she said, hey, we've got this in common. I'm going to say, let's go to this together. That was building a bridge in that relationship. Now, we're very good, I think, at burning bridges, right? Where we have opportunities to come together with something, and instead of coming together, we say, light that bridge on fire. We're going to do something to say, we don't want to be in this relationship anymore, or I'm just going to hurt you because you've hurt me. And that bridge is now burnt. So question is, what bridge do you need to build maybe that you've burnt recently? Thinking back to maybe the tension that you came into this room tonight with, in whatever relationship that was. How could you build a bridge there? Fourthly, lastly, this idea of fighting for others. Fight for others, not yourself. If we start actually fighting for others, man, it would change the world. It really would. It would change your home. It would change your friendships. It would change your school. It would change this ministry. And it would expand because other people would want to do what you're doing. Following Jesus is contagious. When you do it, other people want to do it as well. That's why the church has grown the way that it has from when Jesus lived 2,000 years ago. This is the concept. Follow after Jesus, share him with others, and man, fight for other people. Now, that's not physically fight. That's with emotions, that's with words, but that's also people that you might not be closely connected to. Meaning they could be outside of this room. They could be in another country. But you know they don't have an advocate. You know they don't have somebody to fight for them, and so you are fighting for them. This is how to be a peacemaker. Jesus, he fought for people that he didn't live with, but he fought for you and I. He was a peacemaker for those that he didn't see physically, but he knew. Are you going to do the same? Will you be a peacemaker, or are you going to settle for being and staying in conflict? That's not how you're designed. That's not how God desires that, and it's not what he desires for the people that you're in relationship with. Let's be a people who really love and pour into each other and fight for peace like Christ did. We're going to close with a very simple thing. It's something that has been done for centuries. It's called passing of the peace, right? And very simple. What people used to do is they would stand up and they'd shake hands and they'd say, "Peace be with you." And the other person would say, "And also with you," right? And so the concept for us tonight is that we actually implement this idea of passing the peace. Now, you might make light of this, but I would say, man, actually take that to heart. Peace be with you. Like, I actually want to offer you peace. And maybe there's some relationships in here tonight that you're like, there's tension there. Maybe that's the person that you actually need to seek out before the end of the night and say, hey, peace be with you. Build that bridge. So we're going to stand, and I'm going to invite the band up as well. While we're passing the peace, they're going to come and they're going to sing. But I'd love you to just pass the peace to somebody right next to you right now. Peace be with you, and also with you.
I have no idea.
Peace be with you.
You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears are gone. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. From my mother's womb, You have chosen me, and your love has called my name. I've been born again, your family. Your blood flows through my veins. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. And I am a child of God. Sing it again. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears are drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and sing. I am a child of God. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears are drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could sit and sing. I am a child of God. And I am a child of God. I am a child of God. Child of God. So I've got one more song for you guys. I got to tune down for it though. If any of you want to be able to tune your instruments in the middle of a set, just let me know and I can get you on the worship team. It sounds like a good deal to me, right? That the highest king would welcome me. I was lost, but he brought me in. Oh, his love for me. Oh, his love for me. The sun sets free. Oh, it's free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Free at last, he has ransomed me. His grace runs deep. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, he died for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, it's free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Some voices. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Thank you. You may be seated.
You can actually head to your groups. So head to 180 groups. If you don't know what those are, go to the person who brought you today. 9th grade girls are all together tonight. Okay, 9th grade girls are all together tonight with Becca and Courtney. Oh, Davis. Spilled.